What up, guys? Today we have a question from hitanddip. I think that's their username. By the way, if you guys want to ask a question, generally the best way is to send me an email. I have a link somewhere in the description box or somewhere on here to tell you how to do that. If you want to do that, that's the best way. But I've been trying to give my YouTube comments a little bit of love too, so I'm answering the question. So we're here today. Question comes from hitanddip. It says, I want to ask, how do you get better on getting to or going on attack mode as a beginner? So it's a good question, right? So thank you for the question. And again, that's something that happens for a lot of beginners, right? Because you come into the gym, you're a jiu-jitsu beginner, you spend most of your time early on just surviving, just sort of balling up and trying not to get submitted. And then over time, you start to find that you're starting to last a little bit longer. You're not getting submitted all the time. And now you're thinking like, okay, what can I do, right? But at the same time, you've probably never been in this offensive place before. So you don't even know what it feels like to be able to go on the offensive and put it to someone else, right? So how do you do that as a beginner? So here's something to think about, something to chew on real quick. Imagine you were driving and you just started driving, but you had no GPS and you had no destination. You didn't know where you were going. Every time you come to a intersection or a light or whatever, you're going to just make some random turn and you don't really know where you're going. So you might even sort of think about it for a while. Say, I don't know where I'm going. Let me just make a turn here. Everything's random. You don't know what you're doing, right? Think about that as with jiu-jitsu a little bit. This analogy may not hit exactly right, but when you're training, every single time you go to a position, every time someone grabs a grip on you, you're faced with a set of choices. Seemingly an endless number of choices, but eventually it sort of gets smaller and smaller as you figure out what's important, what's not. But you're faced with choices. It's really helpful to know where you're trying to go, right? To have an end destination for where you're wanting to get to, because then it tells you, it directs your choices. Even if you're in a weird position that you're not too familiar with, if you know you're trying to get to mount or side control or whatever, it still helps direct you a little bit. And so that's something that's super important, because when you get into jiu-jitsu, especially as a beginner, especially with you guys now, with all the information that you guys have, it can be overwhelming. You can easily get into paralysis by analysis because there's a million things, right? You want to narrow down the menu, so to speak. You want to basically set the GPS and say, okay, I want to go to this position. Let's say if you're trying to say offense, okay, let's say that it's guard. Let's say it's half guard. You're a bigger guy, you have shorter legs, full guard's not working for you, it's not your jam. Let's go to half guard. Okay, so we're going to go offensive on our bottom and we're going to play half guard and we're going to go for a sweep and we're going to go for this particular sweep. We now have an offensive plan. On top, we're going to go to side control and we're going to look for the key lock or the Americana, right? Whatever submission name you want to call it. Those are going to be our focuses. And then everything else that you do centers around those things, right? This is one, how you start developing a game, but also two, for developing some sort of offense. This is what you need to do. Because what happens is, if you sit back on your back and you don't know what guard you're going to play, it's like, oh, which one am I going to play? And your partner on top, if they have any sort of offensive mindset on top, they're going to put you in their position because you're not fighting for yours. And then on top, when you're on top, well, I mean, you can go to mount, you can go to side control, you can go to back mount, where do you want to go? Having a focus of position first and then thinking about the submission that you want to do afterwards is very helpful. And basically now you're shredding everything else, getting everything else to the side and said, this is what I'm focused on. You know, it's like if I got a ton of books on my bookshelves in my office here, right? If I was just like, I'm just going to read something and I just come out here every day and pick something random, well, that's not going to be that helpful to me. But if I say, you know what, I'm going to read this book right here. I'm going to read this book until it's all the way finished, until I can use it or until I can get the information from it. It's the same thing. Give yourself some focus. And again, you may not know where to go as a white belt, so you can talk to your coach, but you could also just sort of tune into yourself and say, what feels most comfortable to me? Side control, mount, back mount? What kind of guard feels most comfortable to me? Just zero in on those feelings and it'll give you a direction to go to. So, brother, hopefully that helps you. Hopefully that helps you with your dilemma as a beginner that's trying to be more offensive minded and have attack modes. So hopefully that helps you out. That's something that I do. It's something that I did and something I still do to this day. So that's my suggestion to you. I'll talk to you next time.